Hello and welcome to the Happy Insights podcast. My name is Happy Ali. Welcome to today's show. I am excited, as I always say, to have someone new on the show. But today's show is a little different because I don't have someone who just wrote a book, and I don't have someone who just had a spiritual awakening yesterday and they wrote about it and they're going to tell you how to have the spiritual awakening with their techniques. This is very, very different. Today I have Peter Benson on the show. Hello, Peter.
How you doing, Happy?
Thank you so much for being on the show. Now, Peter was a normal ASE mechanic and engineer technician when he experienced a significant awakening that opened his connection to his higher self and the angelic realm. And he discovered he had angelic origins as a part of Archangel Michael's army of light, guided by Archangel Michael and Ascended Master. Then he was guided on how to put together these tools that use tensor technology with healing properties. And his research led him to build tensor rings, crystal-infused pendants, Merkaba healing coils, sound frequency amplifiers, and PTSD restoratives, and much, 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 much more. Now, that sounded like a mouthful, but can you please tell me, first of all, before we get into the details of what these tools are and what they do, what happened to you? How did you have your awakening? Because usually something dramatic tends to happen.
It is. A nice way to put it is I did family restructuring. We were going through that. And I was at the end, it was more like, you get to the bottom and you have no place to go but up. And so I ended up understanding and exploring more alternative information. So I was actually reading Brian Weiss, Michael Newton, with their near-death experiences and their hypnotic regressions on what's on the other side. So that one really, it's like, okay, so we are far more than what we were told and understood. So I went into that realm and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Dolores Cannon's books are amazing when it comes into the regression. So I'm like, yes, this is awesome. But I ended up having more of a Kundalini awakening while I was meditating, really when I was in that low point. And I was just like, okay, this is cool. How do I do this more? How do I get this back? Because that was amazing. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I need to learn how to be more spiritual. What is this? How do I do this? I'm like, I was mechanic. I guess, like you said, I'm a mechanic. I work with cars all day long, swear like a sailor and doing all these things. And then I was working in engineering, so total left brain, working on data, details, logging, all this other stuff. And I'm trying like, what is spirituality? And I was complete loss. I had no idea. So I started going into our local area. I was looking for what's going on for meditations, and I hit a bunch of different meditation places. Hit a sound bath lady, and I ended up going to her sound bath for about 2 years, and it was absolutely amazing. And during that time, that's when my awakening really started happening. It just started opening up. It's not like I can all of a sudden, see and feel everything. It's more of like just an understanding. It's a calm inside where at one point that, okay, we're good and things are much better. So my awakening started there.
It's really fascinating because you had nothing related to this world prior to that. And you talked about family restructuring. I'm guessing it was a breakup or a divorce or something along
Yeah.
those lines. And
Yes.
it's funny because so many people are so afraid of divorce and breakups, and so many people have on this show started their spiritual journey and awakening where they're become teachers and healers after their divorce, or in my case, the death of a loved one. It was for everybody, it's something very dramatic, and it's interesting that we are all so afraid to experience those low points. And as a result, I literally have guest after guest here telling me their incredible, unreal, almost hard to believe story. It's not hard to believe for me, but hard to believe for many other people. just from that low point. And I had to kind of emphasize on that because I wanted to put a little bit of a give a little respect to those difficult moments in life for somebody who's listening and going through a hard time. And I really
Yeah,
like it because you said you had no special abilities and it all just kind of opened up slowly because I know
yeah,
a lot of people that want to actively seek some sort of spiritual awakening, they want it to happen overnight without putting any work in. And unless you have a near death experience or a car accident or something super dramatic where it just makes your soul pop out of your body or something, that doesn't usually happen. So, how was the process like when you started receiving any kind of information? Can you tell me a little bit more about that before we go into detail about what you actually received?
absolutely. Well, going through all this, and I think what you're talking about, a lot of people go through. It's you get to the bottom, and it gets so much to the point where it's like you just surrender. Once you surrender and let the ego out of the way, because the ego's been driving and steering, and it's going in the wrong direction, and it's a logical mind going in the wrong direction. Once you surrender and allow your right brain and let your heart start talking instead of your brain, and all of a sudden synchronicities start happening and things just shift. And it really is. You just have to surrender, and let your ego just like go take the back seat. And yes, it's going to be there. It's always going to be there. It's just part of who we are. But you don't listen to it. You listen to your heart and where your guidance goes. And for me, that was the biggest thing for me. And it was hard as you could possibly imagine, being a mechanic working on physical aspects of our reality, and then going from engineering, which is total logic and left brain, not coming from the heart. All spreadsheets and PowerPoints and document this and documented that. Everything is all logic and complete opposite of where I ended up at. Um, I utilized all of the skills I gained from being a mechanic and an engineering technician. I'm utilizing all those skills. So there was a purpose for it.
Of course.
So it's everybody's journey is along those lines. You gain all this experience, you have your change, and all of a sudden, oh, this is a new direction. Well, I'm glad I have all that experience. I can do this job so much easier now. And that's what happens for, at least that's what happened for me.
And it was almost like that's why you were chosen to go through that experience because no one other than you could have created what you have created if they had gone through that experience. It required an engineer to create tools that now help elevate consciousness. So tell me the kind of information that you received when you started receiving.
The message was pretty straightforward. It was Archangel Metatron. I had been creating tensor rings for about a year and a half now, and it took me about 6 months to create them properly. But I actually going through some more healing process, and I was actually in a healing session, and Metatron came in. And he says, "I need you to make anklets. They have to be made out of a tensor ring." Yeah,
What's a tensor ring?
a tensor ring. I'll pull up a put a pendant right here for you. The copper winding ring in the outside out, that is a tensor ring, and the small ring in the middle is also a tensor ring.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go into detail on that so we can cover this again. So a tensor ring is originally go into a little bit of the scientific side of things. It was discovered by one of the Manhattan Project's physicists, John Archibald Wheeler, in 57.
Mhm.
They didn't know what to do with it back then. Not surprising. Uh, in the 90s, a gentleman called Slim Sperling took that was basically one wire ring, and he's like, okay, well, it has a positive side and a negative. He's like, we can't use that. How do we make it positive energy on both sides? And he did. And by utilizing twists and brazing back onto itself, the two wires, it created a positive output on both sides of that wire on the ring. And it created an energy field in the middle. A lot like when you're blowing soap bubbles with the kids, the soap film inside the ring, you figure that type of thing is inside that ring.
Got it.
Okay. And this is scientifically proven. They verified, Slim Sperling and his partner is a physicist. They verified this at a lab in Germany and at Lockheed Martin. So they actually verified the technology. It's really cool.
Okay, so let me explain it in what I feel like I understood. You create a ring, and due
Yeah.
to the charge of the ring, something in the middle is created that is new, some sort of energetic,
Yes.
okay, quality. So whatever is inside of this ring would have some sort of a energetic reaction to whatever energy is right there. That makes
Yeah.
sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're right on. Yeah. And the way that the tools actually function is so you can utilize tensor rings on their own, and they're powerful all by themselves. And there are people all over the world that are create them. What I ended up doing and what Metatron was guiding me to do is actually put crystals in the middle of it so that the tensor ring amplifies the crystals.
That sounds
So
logical now.
yeah, so that's where this all came from. And I was like, okay, I had no idea. So Metatron said use the tensor ring. Okay, so I had to make it flat so I actually make it into an anklet. Um, and this is one of my prototypes of a different one right here. And you
Okay.
can see it's got a ring. It's folded over onto itself. It's flat.
And it
And then we,
has the same energy, even though it's not completely enclosed into a full ring.
yeah, it's kind of chunky in the middle. That's where the crystals are.
Got it.
And then it's got wire mesh over it, which is what Metatron was talking about. So this is what he explained. He wanted a tensor ring with 5 crystals in it, which were very specific, and then the copper mesh over it. And then from there, it took me about a year and a half to find and source everything to create it and put it together. Um, a couple, obviously failed prototypes in the process. Um, and then all of a sudden it was like they were created and they were amazing. What they do is, according to the channeled message, is they keep your energy yours or your frequency yours. The best explanation I've always talked about is it's like when you go into, you're at home, you feel stable, quiet, and everything. But the minute you go into like a Costco, after about 10-15 minutes, you feel very stressed. That's everybody else in the same building, and you're feeling it.
Right. And I would guess an empath would be a really good person to be using this because empaths really feel everything. I want to
Yeah.
say that I do appreciate any tool
Yeah.
that helps us along the way because sometimes our guards are down. And those are the times, especially where someone like me could really use something.
Even when you're in your own home and stuff like that, it creates a feeling. So it helps you understand your frequency specifically. And it allows you to train your subconscious on that feeling. You can actually put a word to it and say, this is what this word feels like. And you can program yourself for the word, like, okay, bubble or shield, and just train yourself and then train your subconscious. This is, if you do this long enough, your subconscious will pick it up and you don't have to actually do it anymore because you're correct. You can put up all the shields you want through intention. And yes, we are that powerful to do it. The thing is when you get stressed or you put into a traumatic event, your everything gets distracted and all your intentions drop away. And this is where it helps us to program our subconscious to keep these up, even if we're distracted.
That's so beautiful. I think I need to have one of those on every time I deal with my 6.5-year-old twins because my equilibrium gets thrown off almost every single time. They're wonderful children, but my sense of responsibility for them to be good humans has jeopardized my ability to maintain my inner peace. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, but I think that would be a great reminder or a feeling reminder, a reprogramming device that I could really use. So I kind of understand what the tensor rings do now. Um, so basically you wear them, it helps elevate your um give you a feeling and also keep your energetic feel to yourself and kind of
Yes.
protect it. Is there anything else that I'm missing based on what it does?
Well, that's the general idea of the tools I create. So they're all based off of Metatron's idea of keeping your frequency yours. Um, so that was the anklet, and then it morphed into pendants due to necessity. Um, we had a friend who was wearing the anklets, and her husband gave her so much grief over wearing anklets because it's spiritual. And he was, the football pickup truck kind of guy. And it's like, nope, can't have that in the house. And she just had to give him back. So at that point, I basically sat into meditation. I'm like, okay, Metatron, if this is supposed to be helping people, how can we make this innocuous so that when anybody would put these on or put this tool on, nobody would care or think twice. Well, what can we do? And that's when he gave me the idea of the pendant, which is the same thing as the anklet, but in a different form. So that's this, and you have the 5 crystals inside of it. It does a little bit different on the way it shields and protects you, but it still does the same job. It's been an interesting travel or journey for these tools.
That sounds amazing. It's really cool. I'm more and more interested in tools as I go along because I have a strong ego. I'm a left and right brain person, and I'm, you know, very spiritual and I do a lot of stuff. I do past life regression. I do meditations where you talk to your higher self, or hypnotherapy, which I usually try to avoid the term. And I'm a subconscious manifestation coach, blah, 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 blah. And I'm an intuition teacher. But at the same time, sometimes teaching is so much easier than doing it for yourself because you have to break down walls to be able to, explore the new versions of you that are dying to get out. So
Yep.
I saw in your bio and the list of questions that I was offered to ask you, and the word Merkaba, which I
Yep.
know what a Merkaba is based on what I believe a Merkaba is. Can you tell me what that is and how that plays into your journey?
For a Merkaba is a three-sided pyramid with another inside a three-sided pyramid inverted inside of it and offset by what I think is 45 or no, it's I have to look at the numbers, but a specific degree. So it looks like on a 2D format, it would look like the Star of David. So that figure and my understanding of it is our energy geometric shape that we travel in. It spins so fast it creates a bubble of energy, and that's where we float around and do our thing in. Um, what we utilize that in on the tensor technology and some of the things that we do is we utilize this to add to people's like pyramids or change the frequency of rooms. You hang it in the room and then you can add a crystal to it to change the frequency towards like rose quartz, more loving. If you have a lot of energy or negative energies, you could use like black tourmaline or shungite or selenite and put it inside that, and it would actually cleanse and clear the energy of the room or the area all the way up to the house size, depending on what you do.
Kind of like sage wood without having to burn the sage.
Yep. And what we found is if you have you've heard of meditation pyramids, right? And people have pyramids in their homes and pyramids out in the meditation gardens and whatnot. You put that at the peak inside the pyramid, it amplifies the pyramid tenfold. So the energy of that pyramid is now magnified and amplified massively.
It's really important for some of my listeners and viewers and audience to know that we don't end, our body doesn't end where you think your body ends. There's the Taurus field, there's the Merkaba, and there's Merkaba. I mean, some people say that space travel and time travel and all that stuff is created through our spinning Merkaba that allows you to just basically, it's like your personal spaceship that takes you from dimension to dimension to, you are able to travel from worlds, um, to other worlds because you activate your Merkaba and it just spins so fast and it's able to do things that you could never conceive. And a lot of the spinning white UFOs that people see, the little lights that go really fast, the quick acting ones, a lot of people say that those are spaceships created from the Merkaba. So that's just like to throw little random facts in there. But even the pyramids, I believe when I used to study the Kabbalah, I studied for 8 years. They talked about how the the Great Pyramids, how they're a big pyramid, they were just the top half of it, and there's the lower energetic half of it that creates the bottom half of the Merkaba. That there's actually it's a real Merkaba that's sitting in Egypt. Each one is its own, and that's why the Star of David is the Star of David, as opposed
Yes.
to the Merkaba being a resembling the Star of David. The Star of David is just a image of that, um,
Yeah.
and it is a not a 2D as you said. It is if you flip it in any direction, pretty much it looks the same. It looks different, of course,
Yeah.
but you can, it's just these triangles, pyramids that, anywhere you spin it, it's going to be the same. And the more you spin it, it'll just look like a circle. Right.
Yes.
Okay. Just,
Yep.
I have to, explain things just a little different for people who are like, what is that? And
Oh, I
just think
know.
of it as your bubble that you live in, for people who are just like, what the heck are they talking okay, so
Yeah.
yours, so you have ones that you've created that you hang and they help with the energy that's around.
Yeah.
They give off energy because you have the crystal in the center. Is that what you said?
Well, they generate their own energy field regardless of what you put in there for crystals. When you put crystals in it, depending on the attribute or the metaphysical attributes of those crystals, it will actually tune the energy that it's actually pushing out. If it's like if you visualize that we are that Merkaba and our Taurus field is is the outcome of our energy spinning. Now we represent in our person, our soul aspect is actually projecting the frequencies we are. So you do that with a crystal, and then now the Merkaba is going to be projecting the energies of what it is.
I love that. That's so interesting. I'm waiting for you to create a human-sized one that's just like hovers and just spins around and we could just get in to travel through space and time. So I'm waiting for you on that. Okay, so let's go through another thing that I like people to know about, which is your Taurus openings. Can you tell me a little bit about that, what it is?
Okay, so when you visualize a lot of times you'll see pictures of the seven chakras lit up with the colors, and then they'll represent the donut energy field that goes around us, that donut torus and energy field. So that is, what we just talked about, is how I feel is our Merkaba spinning and projecting our energy out. And the top and bottom where the energy is coming in, that's how we feel energetically our world. Right. So it's going to come in. It's if you feel like if you look at it in one particular way, is if energy is coming in and hitting your field at one point, that energy is going to come in through your, let's say, higher spot. It's going to come in through your crown chakra first and then come in through your root chakra. And you can get a general direction and height of where that energy is coming from. And that's just our natural radar kind of thing coming in. So that's how we understand our energy. But if we're too saturated by everything around us, we can't feel. So Metatron and the anklets, what happens with the anklets is when you put them on, it basically closes the top and bottom of your torus. It closes it down. So you don't get bombarded by energies in your environment. It is that strong.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So if you're closing the
Yep.
top and the bottom, does that mean your Taurus field is not happening? What are you doing to the Taurus field? Because I want to expand it. That's my
Yes.
goal always through my meditations. I'm always trying to expand my field using
Yeah.
my heart and my, the become more centered so I can
Yeah.
use my heart to expand my field as big as it can go so my energetic body could be as far as it goes.
Yes.
But if I'm blocking the top and the bottom, what happens exactly? Are we just putting a filter there so the bad stuff doesn't come in, or is it just stopping the flow of energy?
So it doesn't restrict you from projecting at all.
Okay.
And it doesn't stop you from feeling. what it does, it blocks. It's like putting on a filter that says, I don't want to feel your energy unless I choose to. So these are intention controlled tools. Just by thought, you can control these. So you put them on, and yes, it basically caps the top and bottom and turns your field into like a shield. So you're not going to feel the outside world unless you choose to. So when you're walking around, you're dealing with your kids and stuff, you can choose to feel their energy, and you will feel it without a problem. That's your choice. You can, without even saying it or doing anything, you just think it, and you're like, "How you doing?" Oh, okay. You'll understand. So it's not closing you down, it's just protecting you from extraneous energy. Yeah.
So I'm understanding from everything that you're telling me is that you have these wonderful tools that allow you to turn on and off negative energies, create almost these safe havens for yourself, and create shields without blocking the world, and you have more control over your energetic muscles before you learn to master them with your mind, because not everybody is like me and can block stuff out naturally.
Yeah. Yes.
So okay, and I know so many people come to me and they say, oh my God, I feel the world so strongly and it's too much. And I'm tapping into my higher self and I'm tapping into my energetic being and abilities. And it's just overwhelming. How do I shut it off? And I have to go through all these things with them and teach them how to master their focus in order to prevent them from receiving any information. And that's
Yep.
not what they want. So yours is kind of like a shortcut,
Yes.
um, almost like training wheels.
That's exactly what I said. That's it. That's what I, that was my phrase exactly. These are spiritual training wheels to teach you how to feel around energies that you don't want to be bombarded by. It allows you to understand the energies before you just become saturated and you can't deal with it.
Well, that's beautiful. So where can any of my audience get any of your stuff? The link is
Well,
below, by the way, but it's just the links are
yeah,
in the bio. But I want you to say it out loud.
it's energies, IES of service.com is the website. And we're doing more videos to go out to teach you how to control them and stuff like that. But it's energiesofservice.com. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that fun stuff. Yeah,
Oh, well, thank you so much for being on the show. I am really happy to have had you, someone different, someone with a fresh perspective, and someone with tools for so many of us that really could use some tools. So thank
absolutely.
you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time out of your trip, and making time for me and our audience. And
Yes.
thank you so much, and thank you to everyone watching and listening. Please write a review, let us know what you think, let us know if you've ever used these before, and start a conversation. So thank
Yeah.
you. Have a
Awesome.
beautiful day, everybody. Goodbye.